"Is this true?" demanded the smith. "No!" replied Eragon. "I offered this stone as payment for some meat, and he accepted it. When I told him that I'd found it in the spine, he refused to even touch it. What difference does it make where it came from?" Horst looked at the stone curiously, then returned his attention to the butcher. "Why won't you trade with him, Sloane? I've no love for the spine myself, but if it's a question of the stone's worth, I'll back it with my own money." The question hung in the air for a moment. Then Sloane licked his lips and said, "This is my store, my own store. I can do whatever I want." Katrina stepped out from behind Horace and tossed back her auburn hair like a spray of molten copper.
"Father, Eragon is willing to pay. Give him the meat, and then we can have supper."
Sloane's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Go back to the house. This is none of your business." "I said go!" Katrina's face hardened. Then she marched out of the room with a stiff back. Eragon watched with disapproval but dared not interfere. Horst tugged at his beard before saying reproachfully, "Fine, you can deal with me. What were you going to get, Eragon?" His voice reverberated around the room. "As much as I could." Horst pulled out a purse and counted out a pile of coins. "Give me your best roasts and steaks. Make sure that it's enough to fill Eragon's pack." The butcher hesitated, his gaze darting between Horst and Eragon. "Not selling to me would be a very bad idea," stated Horst. Glowering venomously, Sloane slipped into the back room. A frenzy of chopping, rapping, and low cursing reached them. After several uncomfortable minutes, he returned with an armful of wrapped meat. His face was expressionless as he accepted Horst's money, then proceeded to clean his knife, pretending that they were not there. Horst scooped up the meat and walked outside. Eragon hurried behind him, carrying his pack and the stone. The crisp night air rolled over their faces, refreshing after the stuffy shop. "Thank you, Horst. Uncle Garrow will be pleased." Horst laughed quietly. "Don't thank me. I've wanted to do that for a long time. Sloane's a vicious troublemaker. It does him good to be humbled. Katrina heard what was happening and ran to fetch me. Good thing I came. The two of you were almost at blows. Unfortunately, I doubt he'll serve you or any of your family the next time you go in there, even if you do have coins."
"Why did he explode like that? We've never been friendly, but he's always taken our money. And I've never seen him treat Katrina that way," said Eragon, opening the top of his pack.
Horst shrugged. Ask your uncle. He knows more about it than I do."
Eragon stuffed the meat into his pack. "Well, now I have one more reason to hurry home. Solve this mystery. Here, this is rightfully yours." He proffered the stone.
Horst chuckled. "No, you keep your strange rock. As for payment, Albert plans to leave for Finster next spring. He wants to become a master smith, and I'm going to need an assistant. You can come and work off the debt on your spare days."
Eragon bowed slightly, delighted. Horst had 2 sons, Albrecht and Baldur, both of whom worked in his forge. Taking one's place was a generous offer. Again, thank you! I look forward to working with you. He was glad that there was a way for him to pay Horst. His uncle would never accept charity. Then Eragon remembered what his cousin had told him before he had left on the hunt. Rowan wanted me to give Katrina a message, but since I can't, can you get it to her?
Of course.
He wants her to know that he'll come into town as soon as the merchants arrive, and that he will see her then.
That all?
Eragon was slightly embarrassed. No, he also wants her to know that she is the most beautiful girl he has ever seen, and that he thinks of nothing else.
Horst's face broke into a broad grin, and he winked at Eragon. Getting serious, isn't he?
Yes, sir, Eragon answered with a quick smile. Could you also give her my thanks? It was nice of her to stand up to her father for me. I hope that she isn't punished because of it. Ron would be furious if I got her in trouble.
I wouldn't worry about it. Sloane doesn't know that she called me, so I doubt she'll be too hard on her. Before you go, will you sup with us?
I'm sorry, but I can't. Garrow's expecting me, said Eragon, tying off the top of the pack. He hoisted it onto his back and started down the road, raising his hand in farewell. The meat slowed him, but he was eager to be home, and renewed vigor filled his steps. The village ended abruptly, and he left its warm lights behind. The pearlescent moon peeked over the mountains, bathing the land in a ghostly reflection of daylight. Everything looked bleached and flat. Near the end of his journey, he turned off the road, which continued south. A simple path led straight through waist-high grass and up a knoll, almost hidden by the shadows of protective elm trees. He crested the hill and saw a gentle light shining from his home. The house had a shingled roof and a brick chimney. Eaves hung over the whitewashed walls, shadowing the ground below. One side of the enclosed porch was filled with split wood, ready for the fire. A jumble of farm tools cluttered the other side. The house had been abandoned for half a century when they moved in after Garrow's wife, Marianne, died. It was 10 miles from Carvajal, farther than anyone else's. People considered the distance dangerous because the family could not rely on help from the village in times of trouble. But Eragon's uncle would not listen. 100 feet from the house, in a dull-colored barn, lived 2 horses, Burka and Burr, with chickens and a cow. Sometimes there was also a pig, but they had been unable to afford one this year. A wagon sat wedged between the stalls. On the edge of their field, a thick line of trees traced along the Honora River. He saw a light move behind a window as he wearily reached the porch. "Uncle, it's Eragon. Let me in." A small shutter slid back for a second, then the door swung inward. Garrow stood with his hand on the door. His worn clothes hung on him like rags on a stick frame. A lean, hungry face with intense eyes gazed out from under graying hair. He looked like a man who had been partially mummified before it was discovered that he was still alive. "Rowan's sleeping," was his answer to Eragon's inquiring glance. A lantern flickered on a wood table so old that the grains stood up in tiny ridges like a giant fingerprint. Near a wood stove were rows of cooking utensils, tacked onto the wall with homemade nails. A second door opened to the rest of the house. The floor was made of boards polished smooth by years of tramping feet. Eragon pulled off his pack and took out the meat. What's this? Did you buy meat? Where did you get the money? Asked his uncle harshly as he saw the wrapped packages. I need to come up with a better Garrow voice. Eragon took a deep breath before answering. Well, just a breath, but he answered, "No, horse brought it for us." "You let him pay for it? I told you I won't beg for our food. If we can't feed ourselves, we might as well move into town. Before you can turn around twice, they'll be sending us used clothes and asking if we'll be able to get through the winter." Garrow's face paled with anger. "I didn't accept charity," snapped Eragon. "Horst agreed to let me work off the debt this spring. He needs someone to help him because Albrecht is going away. And where will you get the time to work for him? Are you going to ignore all the things that need to be done here?" asked Garrow, forcing his voice down. Eragon hung his bow and quiver on hooks beside the door. "I don't know how I'll do it," he said irritably. "Besides, I found something that could be worth some money." He set the stone on the table. Garrow bowed over it. The hungry look on his face became ravenous, and his fingers moved with a strange twitch. "You found this in the spine?" "Yes," Eragon said. He explained what had happened. "And to make matters worse, I lost my best arrow," and that's worth bitching about. Well, I mean, you have more arrows, but anyway. "I'll have to make more before long." They stared at the stone in the near darkness. "How was the weather?" asked his uncle, lifting the stone. His hands tightened around it, like he was afraid it would suddenly disappear. "Cold," was Eragon's reply. "It didn't snow, but it froze each night." Garrow looked worried by the news. "Tomorrow you'll have to help Rowan finish harvesting the barley. If we can get the squash pig too, the frost won't bother us." I'm inconsistent with these voices. He passed the stone to Eragon. "Here, keep it. When the traders come, we'll find out what it's worth. Selling it is probably the best thing to do. The less we're involved with magic, the better." "Why did Horst pay for the meat?" It only took a moment for Eragon to explain his argument with Sloane. "I just don't understand what angered him so." Garrow shrugged. "Sloane's wife, Ismira, went over the Ugolda Falls a year before you were brought here. He hasn't been near the point since, nor had anything to do with it, but that's no reason to refuse payment. I think he wanted to give you trouble." Eragon swayed blearily and said, "It's good to be back." Garrow's eyes softened and he nodded. Eragon stumbled to his room, pushed the stone under his bed, then fell onto the mattress. Home. For the first time since before the hunt, he relaxed completely as sleep overtook him. 9 pages. Not bad.